Well, last night, eyewitness investigator David Hammer broke the story that 95 school bus drivers were driving New Orleans public school children without proper permits last fall.
Yeah, today the city says 76 of them still don't have a permit. Tonight, David explains how we got into this mess and what's being done to fix it.
I spoke to bus companies, schools, and the Orleans Parish School Board to find out why they're having so much trouble meeting the new safety and permitting standards. And one bus company owner even sat down with me after our Taken for a Ride investigation nearly put him out of business. Lisa Guichard was angry when a school bus driver left her 11-year-old son Anthony alone with strangers on a busy street 2 miles from his usual stop.
I gave you my son. You said you was going to take care of him. He gets off the bus, you leave him.
When we reported that story in September, we learned the school bus had not been inspected by the city. Now we're finding out the bus wasn't the only safety issue. We cross-referenced 472 school bus drivers' names with a list of those who have the necessary credentials and found the driver of Anthony's bus was one of 95 who were driving children without the required city permit. That's one of every 5 school bus drivers. What's your reaction to that?
Wow, because just thinking about what that means, that you're driving illegally with kids and you're telling the schools that you have everything, and the schools believe you, and so do the parents.
The bus company owner, Roy Cage, admits that yes, none of his drivers, including himself, had the city permit, a Certificate of Public Necessity and Convenience, or CPNC. When did you find out that you needed to get a CPNC?
September 18th, 19th, when you did the story on me in September.
But Cage says Bethune Charter School should answer for that. He said he stepped in to help the school last fall when its original bus vendor ceased operations in the middle of the semester.
I stepped in to do them a favor. I was more helping them out and got dogged out by at the same time.
Cage says Bethune was so desperate for buses, it never informed him, a Jefferson Parish business, about new permit requirements in Orleans Parish.
The school is allowing you to come in without having a CPNC number, without having a certified driver through the city. And then as soon as David Hammer shows up, or anybody else comes to complain, now all the riffraff goes down to the bus company.
School bus safety expert George Horn says the driver's CPNCs are crucial for ensuring safety. To get the city permit, drivers must pass drug screenings, driving record, and criminal background checks, and 44 hours of driver training.
Well, because it's not just about driving, it's about interaction with the students, it's passenger management, it's how to evacuate the bus in case of emergency.
Charter school leaders say they know education, but not transportation. That's why Guichard says it's time for the school district to run the buses again, especially after the school board voted last fall to increase property tax collections.
I think the school board needs to get back into it, especially if I'm paying the school board. And the school is like, hey, I don't have anybody to teach me anything.
At the start of our Taken for a Ride investigation, the school district said charter schools were on their own dealing with their bus vendors. But as we expose more safety violations, driver misconduct, and even falsified insurance documents, pressure mounted for Public School Superintendent Henderson Lewis to take more direct control.
What does NOLA Public Schools do if not run a bus fleet?
Clarify your question, please.
Orleans Public Schools used to have its own bus fleet, just like Jefferson Parish, East Baton Rouge, and most large public school districts around the country. But now, New Orleans has a unique all-charter-based system.
I'm sure you've heard the criticism, which is that the school board, all it is a landlord, essentially, when it comes to actual...
And that's not true. That's not true. Because a landlord has property. And if something breaks in the building, if you own the property, you go ahead and repair it for whoever is leasing that from you. Mm-hmm. Yes, the buildings are and belong to Orleans Parish School Board, and yes, we have our schools in there. But that's just one fraction of what we do as a school district.
Lewis says he's convening a group of student transportation experts to consider major changes, maybe even going back to a district-run bus fleet.
As we move forward, I'm looking at everything from how background checks are done, how buses are going through the inspection process and the time that they're being inspected, to what's the cost that we're paying for transportation, looking at all those things.
But Cage said small local bus companies like his are getting squeezed out
They call them the fly-by-night companies.
by national transportation firms that have more buses, more money, and can afford to jump through all the new regulatory hoops.
I understand why they needed those rules, but it's hard to respect the steps they're taking to enforce the rules now.
Cage started driving school buses 20 years ago while running the Booster Club at a Kenner playground. He invested in 22 buses, but now he's down to 4, trying to get them up to code and applying for city permits to keep his business afloat.
We care. That's why we're doing what we do. You know, we gotta care and want to do it right to invest that kind of money. You know, but when the city and the schools are not on the same page with us, how can we last? How can we not stop you from coming to investigate us, David? How?
Bethune Charter School spokeswoman Sharon Brilski said the school is in a legal dispute with Cage and declined to comment on the lack of permits or his complaints. Cage said he isn't aware of any legal dispute.
All right, thank you, David. Right now on our website and mobile app, we have an interactive search. You can actually use it to look up a New Orleans charter school or school management group and see who their bus provider is and how many drivers had the required permits by mid-November. You can also text BUS, B-U-S, to 504-529-4444. We'll send you a link to this interactive search right to your phone.